Okay guys, this is going to be a relatively quick little build here, just a little Atlas thing, get me back on track for doing Atlas stuff. So, Atlas shaper tool holders. Now we're going to do an internal holder, and it's going to be very similar to what Atlas offered, except it's going to be crude. It's going to be a shop built thing, and I'm going to build a couple, 3 of these. I'll probably sell this first couple. Down the road I may improve on this system if they're something people wants and is popular, but I'm going to try and do these relatively inexpensively and just a quick and dirty. So this will be a standard tool holder like they're getting big bucks for on Fleabay. These things, if you find an original, I think they should be worth at the most $100. Okay, for an original. Now, if we're building them and putting them out there, I got to give my little disclaimer. By the time I figure machining time and stuff on these, I don't know exactly what these are going to sell for when I get to building these. But what I'm going to do today is just a internal tool holder for holding the boring bar. And it's basically the same design, except we don't need all this extra stuff. Let's get it off of here so we're not even looking at it. This would be the same basic form as an internal tool holder to hold a boring bar. Original Atlas size, they took a 1/2-inch boring bar, and that's what I'm going to build these for, is for 1/2-inch bar. We don't have any of this, but this is basically that design. Now we've got a little bit thicker walls. We've got a couple, I think originally they had 1 set screw. I plan on putting 2 set screws in here to hold the boring bar in place just because I think I can, and that's about all they are. We're going to do a 7/8 wide shank. I believe these are 3/8 wide. So I've got stock here, and like I say, I'm setting up for about 3 of these. So you're going to see me do a little bit of fixturing that you may not want to take the time to do. These are not complicated, and these are going to be a welded up assembly. So what they're going to be when we're ultimately done is a piece like this. So we're going to weld these 2 pieces together. But for the shank size, we're going to start off with these. I think I've got these should be, yeah, this is 3/8 thick stock. It starts out as 1-inch wide stock because that's what you can get. I'm going to mill it down to 7/8. Now, a full 1-inch will probably fit in a Atlas shaper tool holder, but the originals were 7/8, I believe, so that's what I'm going to make them. The head I'm going to start off with about a 1-inch thickness is what I've cut my blanks to. I don't think it's that critical. I think you can go down to 7/8, whatever. I started off at inch thick in my cutoff saw. By the time I square the ends and round them and everything, they'll be a little less than 1 inch probably, but they're again not rocket science here. So this is quick and easy. When you weld these up, you can wire feed them, you can, MIG, as long as you get good penetration hold on them. You can TIG weld them together. You can probably, well, you could do it with a stick welder too. I'm going to do it with TIG just because I've got that capabilities here in the shop. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take these over to the mill. I'm going to knock 1/8 of an inch off of one edge of them. There again, don't know that that's necessarily I have to do because it will fit in my standard tool holder from just taking the tool holder and putting it in there. My tool holder's not mounted on the shaper right now because I've got a keyway cutter mounted up. I've got a boring bar mounted up in my shaper right now. So I'll show a little bit of these clips as we go along. I'll hit the important stuff and we'll see if we can't make a tool holder. Okay, this is just cold roll. I don't see, for the home shop use, I don't see any reason to be using anything really any more exotic than that at this point in time. Like I say, if I do start producing these, we may go to something a little more appropriate. We may go to a 4140 or something like that. I don't know exactly what I'll pick for a alloy if I do indeed do that. But like I say, there's no sense in being too excited about this at this point in time. All right, there again, nothing rocket science. We got the mill cutting over here. I've taken my little blanks just like this, and we've gotten the first one already set up. We faced it off and center drilled it. Now I'm just going to poke a hole through here just to get a hole all the way through. Then we'll probably take a couple of steps, ease it up to one underneath a 1/2 inch, and then we'll run a reamer through it. So there again, nothing rocket science. Okay, that will begin to accept a 1/2 inch pin. What I'm going to do is go ahead and radius the edges on this, and then I'll run that reamer through one more time from this side. So let's see what we can do here as far as, let's get an outside radius on this. That looks pretty good there. That's probably even a little less, or a little more open than I'd like it to be, but that's okay. It's going to get locked in there with screws, so it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. I'm sure if we compare that to original ones, why they're quite a bit looser than that. So anyway, let me flip this around. We'll do the same thing to the other end. Okay, and there will be one of the heads. So that's what we're going to end up with. All right, well, we're just grinding a little bevel to get a little more weld penetration here. And these will be the profile. This is going to be the back end. Ran a little radius around the back there. Ran a small bevel here on the bottom for weld penetration. And then here on the top, I've got a fairly big, just basically a 45-degree angle on top. That was a little bit crooked, but anyway, that's basically where they are. And then I'm going to just V out. I'm going to put kind of a 45 on both sides of this to get penetration. The reason this one's a little bit larger on top is because if you look at a standard tool holder, usually on the top portion of them, they've got a little, and it's a forging mark is what it is, but usually they've got a little scalloped relief right there on the front. So I'm just kind of duplicating that. But yeah, this is just put a 45 on them to get some good weld penetration. Kind of what we've got. Just want good penetration on both sides into the front portion. All right, now I've already done the first couple of these. My main concern is getting lots of penetration in them, so my welds may not be the most beautiful in the world, but this is my little fixture and everything's hot, so we'll see if we can't show it to you, and I'll show it to you again later if we don't get a good view of it. I've just built me a little fixture to hold these together, and the way I've got them going is I take my main body that I've already got drilled and tapped, and if I can get it started here. We start both our bolts in here, and I use these both for alignment and to lock this in place. Now, if I do many more of these, well, we'll upgrade our fixture a little bit more, but this is the basic setup right here. And I've been locking it down in place with a clamp before I fully tighten them, so it sets all the way down. Okay, there's our main part set up. Take our body that we beveled, it slides up there, and that lines everything. And we're aligned all the way around. So then I just throw a weld on the bottom, weld on the top, and then tack the sides in. Then I can actually take it out of the fixture, so I've got a little better access to it. And we can weld up the rest of it. Okay, now if that's the way I would build those. We'll let these cool down, and we'll come back and take a look at it. All right. Well, here's the way they came out when they're welded. Now, like I say, the main thing I was concerned with is penetration. My welds are not the most beautiful in the world, but I feel these are plenty strong for that. This was my little fixture to set them up. We saw that over at the welding table. They set right on there, like that, clamp there, our two alignment pins coming out. Like I say, if I do many more of these, well, we'll improve on this little jig, but it actually works really well for something quick and dirty. You know, it didn't take too long to build them. Anyway, that's the way they look like once they're welded. I've already hit them on the belt sander on the bottom there. This is one that's been cleaned up a little bit and then sandblasted. So this is, I'm going to leave them in this condition right here. I am going to finish out these other two, and I will throw these on the website. Like I say, they're not perfect. The welding is not the most beautiful in the world, but those are going to be a good functional tool holder. And like I say, I've got some ideas for some improvements down the road. But anyway, that's the way they come out. And we'll add the set screws. I'm going to go ahead and clean up these other two, and I'll come back and we'll give you a final view of everything. Okay, well, we got this little project pretty well done with. I've got to touch up a couple of things, but we'll get them done. Now, as I said before, my main concern was penetration on these because I didn't want the heads to come loose. And so consequently, I didn't worry too awful much about outward appearance. So there's some flaws at the welding points, but other than that, they'll work fine. Now, I set up a little fixture with the idea that at some point in time, I'm probably going to produce some more of these in one manner or another. I've got a couple of ideas about how I want to do stuff, but I'm not quite there yet, as with a whole lot of my other little projects that goes on around here. Now, I set this up with a fixture, and you saw the way that I produced them and the way I welded them together. If I was only going to build one of these for myself, what I would probably do is I would still go ahead and turn my little center section. I would not drill and ream the center of it yet. I would go ahead and take and drill and tap my holes for my set screws, whether you do 2 on either side like I've done here, or if you just did 1. Now I believe there was only 1 on the bottom in the original design, whereas I've done 2. But I would go ahead, weld them up, then you could actually mount it in your milling machine vise or whatever you're gonna do there. Then you could center up here as close as you could and go ahead and drill and ream your center hole in. The main thing is to make sure that your shank on this is parallel to your boring bar that you're going to put in there. So these will accept 1/4-inch boring bars, or 1/2-inch boring bars, excuse me. And I put 1/4-20 set screws in them, which was fairly common for a lot of the things that Atlas did. So that's what we continue to use. So anyway, we've got 3 of these. And one of them's going in my toolbox. The other 2 I'll probably throw on the website. I could take a whole lot more time and smooth these welds out, go back and do a couple little welds, whatever the case may be, just to make a completely smooth transition there. But for the amount of time spent and for what I'm going to put on these for price, why I'm not going to spend any more time on them. So, you know, like I say, they're going to be a fully functional bar for on the shaper. And I think they'll hold up very well. I think they'll do everything we want to do with them in the home shop. So there's what we got, and we'll go in and get this video edited and out for you guys, because I got some other projects I got to get back started on. This is one that's been on the bench for quite a while, and wanted to get those done. So took a little bit of time yesterday and today, and this is what we end up with. So hopefully you find that useful. If you want to build your own, why, that pretty much shows you the way that I would go about doing it. And comment suggestions, leave them in the comment section for me below, guys. And as always, thanks for taking the time to watch.